What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and welcome to another tier list video. Today we are going to be covering the best grass type Pokemon in competitive Pokemon, not just looking at one singular format, not going to be Smogon, not going to be VGC, not going to be Draft League, but a combination of all three, which are the three most popular ways to play competitive Pokemon. So if you guys are excited for this video, then do me a favor and leave a like on the video, and make sure to comment your thoughts on the tier list down below. Also make sure to leave a link to this tier list as well. And if you guys want to fill out your tier list, you can do so. Then at me on Twitter with a picture of it, and I'll make sure to react to it for sure. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Starting off with the tiers, we have starting off with best of the best. These are the best grass type Pokemon there are. They really are what you're looking for in a grass type, basically all around. Whether they do one thing so incredibly well or they're just really well rounded, that's what we look at over here. Really good is kind of what it says. It's really good. They're missing something that takes them from away from best to the best, but they still have a lot of utility and would definitely see a home on many competitive teams. For solid, these Pokemon, they get the job done in a lot of areas. They are definitely not in the top tier, but they have a lot of advantages that the Pokemon in the lower tiers just don't have. In the niche tier, they're just good at one thing, and they don't do that thing necessarily that well. Most of the Pokemon in best of the best will be able to do them better. A lot of the time, too, you'll see Pokemon that are in best of the best that do things just absolutely insanely well. And then in the niche Pokemon, they do those exact same things, just fine. And that's where you'd put the niche Pokemon. Then we have why. Just let me know why you would ever use this Pokemon in any reason at all. We then have bad NFVs. This is for areas for, well, not fully evolved Pokemon that are just not good. We then have LC, so any Pokemon that's in the LC tier. And then, of course, Gmax, because Gmaxes are not going to be legal. This order is not fully alphabetical. I was going to put it alphabetical, but the issue is there's some Pokemon I just don't use often, so I just have them labeled by their number and not by the actual name. So for example, Chikorita would fall into the C tier, or the C, well, alphabetical order, that's what it is. But instead, because it starts with a 1, it's going to be up here in the first list. So let's go ahead and jump into it, starting off with the very first Pokemon. This is what I hate about this list. I'm going to try and make this a bit bigger. Maybe this will help out a bit. That actually did not help at all, maybe a little bit. Either way, so starting off with, we have our Chikorita, which will be LC, as well as Hoppip. I'll put Sunkern up here as well. Wow, I just missed them both, as well as Lotad and Seedot. That's kind of covering it, as well as Trico. So these Pokemon here, obviously there are more. They are just low tier, little cup, all the way. The best one of the bunch here is probably going to be Trico, to be honest, so that's one thing. Skiploom is a bad NFV, as well as Grovyle and Lombre and Nuzleaf as well. Shroomish is going to be in the LC tier. It has Spore, which is nice. Cacnea has Water Absorb, which is good in LC. Turtwig is a very defensive, bulky Pokemon. I'm going to put Grotle in the Y category because I've seen Grotle actually wall Zygardes, which is insane to think about. There's a lot of utility around with Pokemon that are low tiers with Violites, especially grass type Pokemon that resist something like the grass type attacks. It is super valuable. We then have Budew over here, as well as Burmy. Servine is going to be in a bad NFV tier. We have Pansage, along with Simisage. Simisage will go into the niche category. Simisage having access to a good deal of coverage is really nice. It gets knockoff as well. Pretty sure it gets continues to have knockoff. Let me just pull up my list on show to make sure that I actually am saying that correctly. But we have Simisage with the knockoff. It actually lost knockoff, never mind, excuse me. But it does get a couple of really interesting moves, which is kind of the main reason why you'd run something like Simisage. Actually, the reason why I'm not even seeing this is because I didn't choose a format. 1 second. We're gonna go with Anything Goes, and we're gonna go and choose, that's the wrong format again. Oh no, I am completely messing up here. Okay, National Dex we want to look at. Yeah, it still gets knockoff, that's exactly it. And it still gets Nasty Plot too, which has a lot of value. The fact that you have good speed, good special attack, good attack, lets you do basically anything. I'll put it in a niche. Next up is going to be Swaddle and Swadloon. Swadloon I'm going to put into the Y category. Main reason because this Pokemon isn't a very good Pokemon at all. It has really bad typing, of course, but it has situations where, again, walls ground type Pokemon, which is a big deal. It also just so happens to get Sticky Web, which is a big advantage, especially in singles. Then we have Codney. Codney, actually, I'm not going to put into the LC tier. I'm going to put into the niche category because Codney as a prankster Pokemon is really nice. Now, obviously, you would always choose its evolution Whimsicott instead, but this Pokemon does get access to Tailwind. It does get access to Stunspore as well, which are all really, really good. Cotton Guard is amazing. Encore, Memento, all these great things. Switcheroo, I mentioned Tailwind already. They all do really good things for this Pokemon. And having as well access to Prankster on the Helping Hand, which again is not super important because Prankster, it's not really affected by that much. Either way, Helping Hand is great. I'll put it into the niche category. Petalil will go into LC, as well as Deerling. Fungus, I'm going to put into the bad NFV category. In LC, it's actually really, really strong. It's like one of the better Pokemon to have in Little Cup. It's just way too bulky. Regenerator is nasty. Having access to Spore as well is really crazy. Just a nice, strong Pokemon to have in a lot of formats, and a lot of low tier formats especially. Next up is going to be Chespin and Quilladin. Quilladin is going to be the Y category. Same deal as the Grottle. It's able to take a good amount of hits because it's got really good bulk. On top of that, though, it does have access to Spikes, which is really solid. I'm just going to double check that really quickly. Yeah, Spikes is still available, and has, again, just decent coverage all around, which is kind of what you want to look for in a Pokemon that's low tier, a grass type, not fully evolved, take advantage of the Violet. You want to have good, decent typing, good defensive stats, and good random support moves, like in this case, Spikes. So really solid overall. Was better in previous formats, but not going to be as good right now because Spikes are so common in Scarlet and Violet. Next up is Skiddo, as well as Phantump, Dartrix in the Bat NFVs. We then have Fomantis. This is Morlul. This is Bounce Wave, I believe it is, and Steenie will go over here. Grookey can go over here. Yeah, a lot of LC grass types, especially early on. Next up is going to be, this is, oh my god, I'm trying to remember this thing. Is this Gossifleur? Is that the name of this Pokemon? Gossifleur. Yeah, Gossifleur is the name. You know, it gets regen, which is cool and everything, but it's still a Little Cup Pokemon for sure. Next up, we're going to look at the Applin, Little Cup, and there we go. Finally, we get some Pokemon that actually have some value, some worth. Let's go. Mega Abomasnow with the Snow Warning, I think would be really good. The fact that you could Terra still, potentially, we don't really know how that's going to work out. If Megas are ever going to come back, they won't come back. Megas are not coming back. I would put it, though, in really good, just because you have access to Terrastalize and to get rid of the 4 times weakness is really nice, so I'll put it there. But regular Abomasnow is not as strong. I'll put it into the solid category. Still, Snow is very valuable, especially right now with a lot of situations. Pairing with the Titan and stuff like that is really cool. A lot of really awesome options. Amoonguss, I hate to do this, but it's going into best of the best. It is so incredibly overpowering and good in VGC. In singles, it's not all that because you can play around it a lot more. But in VGC, with access to Rage Powder, you can do a lot. With Foul Play, obviously, it's a big deal. You still have access to Spore. There's just a lot of good things that Amoonguss can do, and you really have to go into a tournament prep for it on the VGC side. Next up is going to be Gmax Appleton, and Gmax Flapple as well. I'm going to put them over here in the same place. They're going to be Gmaxes. We're going to have Appleton, which will go into the niche category. I think that they're fine. Terrastalizing is going to be a good thing for these Pokemon because they do get access to Thick Fat, which is nice, and a couple other unique moves. But the fact that you have a 4 times weakness to Ice means you kind of have to run Thick Fat. So if you can Terrastalize into a different type, then it would make Appleton a lot better, I think. Next up is Arboliva. This will go into the solid category. Having access to a couple of really interesting moves is nice. Having the ability to set up grassy terrain is really cool. On contact is awesome as well. It's got really good special attack. The issue is its speed is kind of lackluster, and that's why I'm putting it over here in the solid category. Bayleaf, Blossom in the Y category for sure. This place over here. Bailey's going over here, my bad. Then we have Bramblin. Bramblin is going to go LC, but no, sorry, this is Bramble Gas, excuse me. Bramble Gas I'll put into the, I want to put into solid, but I might have to put into really good. I'm just going to take a quick look again at its like stats because they're really weird. Yeah, it's got 115 attack for some reason. It's got a good amount of like support moves and everything. Strength sap is nice. I think overall it's missing something. I'm going to put into the solid tier. Bramblin will go into LC. Breloom, I'm going to put into really good. I have a lot of high hopes for Breloom. The fact that there are so many good dart types in the format and that you have priority, Mach Punch that's technician boosted, stab as well for 130 attack is absolutely cracked, especially you can Terra Fighting as well. Just a really, really strong Pokemon. I would highly recommend looking into using Breloom if you haven't already for many formats because it does get access to Spore, it does get access to really good coverage options. It's got Gunk Shot, it got Close Combat this generation as well, which are all really, really powerful. Brute Bonnet. Okay, another really good Pokemon for VGC, but I'm going to put it into the really good category at the top of it, of course, because I feel like Amoonguss is a bit better. In singles, it's really not great at all. Like in singles, it would be solid at best, but in VGC, it's really good, so I'm going to put it into the really good tier. That makes a lot more sense in my mind than putting it into best of the best because it's missing something. But still, again, a really strong Pokemon. Bulbasaur into LC, Cacturne will go into the niche category, and the reason why Sucker Punch is nice, having a water immunity as well is nice. It still gets access to Spikes, which is great. A lot of awesome utility moves on the part of Cacturne, which I do like a lot in this situation. Calyrex, why? Calyrex is such a bad Pokemon. I wish this thing was better. It is just absolutely terrible, unfortunately. Capsicid is Little Cup. Carnivine, why? I really don't have any usefulness for this Pokemon. It's not a good Pokemon at all. They could have buffed its stats. Its move pool is not great either. It's just cool design, but missing quite a bit in my mind. Celebi is going to go into the solid tier. I think there's a few things that Celebi is missing. The fact that it is weak 4 times to U-turn really hurts it. It's just not a good thing for it at all. It does get rocks, it does get access to recovery, it does get access to a natural cure, has a lot of good coverage options. It's just the fact that it has 100 base on all its stats, you would hope that it could do a bit more. it's so blocked into either being a defensive Pokemon or especially attacking Pokemon. You really don't have many options outside of that because it gets no good physical attacks outside of like Seed Bomb and like Double Edge. So I really would wish that this thing got better attacks to allow it to be more surprising whenever it came up in competitive Pokemon, because that Celebi will go into the solid tier. Next is going to be Cherrim. Cherrim I'll put into the Y category. Yeah, if you got a Sun and everything, it could be kind of nice, but it's kind of lackluster. It really doesn't do much. You can go with better options basically every other situation. So Cherrim into the Y category. Chestnut is going to be solid. I don't think it's going to see much play in VGC at all, but the fact that it has a really good physically defensive stat, you can get up your spikes, you can just be a bulky Pokemon. Bulletproof is an awesome ability to have. There's a lot of good usefulness in the fact that you're a fighting type as well is really nice in a lot of situations. Next is going to be Credilli into the niche category because of Storm Drain, which is really, really solid. So you can absorb any water types that are coming your way or your opponent's way or your partner Pokemon's way as well, is really good. So I'll put Credilli over here, especially because it also gets rocks, it gets access to decent coverage options, has access to a good special attack stat, it's very bulky on both sides, it can do a good amount of things in singles as well. Next is going to be Hisuian Decidueye. I know the last time I said this Pokemon, I had a really hard time saying the actual names. I think this Pokemon in VGC is not going to be all that. In singles is going to be fine, and because of that, I'm going to put it into the solid category. It does have a lot going for it in a lot of areas. It's got really good attacking stat. It's got a decent amount of physical options. The issue is it's pretty slow, which I don't like. It's base 60, which is obviously not great. Breloom is base 70, and I think that's a big advantage. And the fact that Breloom has access to Spore means that, and a better attack stat, let's be honest, means that you're going to see a lot more utility from Breloom than you would from Decidueye. Hisuian Decidueye specifically. As for regular Decidueye, I do like it a lot. I'm going to put it actually just below Hisuian Decidueye. I think that the fact that you have access to Roost, U-Turn, Spirit Shackle, Knockoff, a lot of really good physical and special moves, your typing is arguably better. It leaves a lot to be desired in other areas, but it does have a lot of good areas on it. So I do think that putting it into the solid category makes a lot of sense. Dhelmise is also going to go, actually not into the solid category, I'll put it into the niche category. Steelworker is a nice move to have. The fact that you can go with like Steelworker Dhelmise, that's Ghost and Grass typing, gets access to like Rapid Spin, and then Terrasilize as well into a different type. It means you could have like 4 stabs, which is kind of crazy. It doesn't do enough, and I feel like every time I've gone up against it, whether it's in singles, and I've never seen it in doubles actually, it just doesn't do enough is the problem. So yeah, next up is going to be Dolive, which we're going to put into the Bat NFVs. We have Hisuian Electrode, which I'll put into the solid category. I like the typing a lot. It's the same typing as Rotom Mow, but I do feel like overall the fact that you have 150 base speed allows you to do something. It's got okay coverage, not the best, but the fact that you are a grass and electric type, you can beat down basically any ground type Pokemon. It's really, really nice. And there's also the access to a signature move Chronoblast, which is Chloroblast, there we go. It's tough to say it, which is kind of cool. It's basically just more powerful, like Solar Beam type of thing. It's like Hyper Beam, but you take 50% damage, and it's special and it's grass, which is kind of nice. Next up, though, is going to be Execute into the LC tier. We go. We're going to have then the God, was Alolan Executor here, which we'll put into the Y category. No, I'll put it into niche, because I remember seeing in the gen that it was released in Gen 7, it had some play in VGC under Trick Room teams because it could do a lot of good work with the wide coverage it has. So I'll put it into the niche category because of that. Meanwhile, Executor. I was gonna say Electabuzz. Regular Executor. Wow, I am struggling today. Is gonna be in the Y category. It just doesn't do enough in any area, and that's the problem. Ferroseed I would normally put into LC, but I'm actually going to put into Y because the typing is not bad at all. It's got a really annoying typing to deal with. It's also used the Violet really well. I think it's honestly a better Pokemon than Quilladin is. I think it's a better Pokemon than actually a lot of these Pokemon are, to be honest. I'll put it over here. It's a solid Pokemon in a lot of areas, but like, why take this over other Pokemon unless you really need a Steel type Pokemon on your team and you really want that Grass type, and for some reason you're in a tier that doesn't allow Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn will be going into Best of the Best. In VGC, you're going to see it have some play when it gets released. In singles, it's going to see play. In Draft League, it's going to see play, and it's going to see a lot of play at the really high levels. I just have a bad problem with this Pokemon. I don't like it at all, but it makes sense to go over here. And I think Terrastalizing with this is going to make it even better than it already is. So keep that in mind when you're looking at a release in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for the, what is this thing called? Ferrothorn, that's the one. Next up is going to be a G-Max Flapple, followed by regular Flapple. Flapple will go into the niche tier as well. I like a more defensive grass than a more offensive grass, that's definitely for sure. Because this Pokemon having Hustle is cool and everything, but you have to hit your moves. That's a bit of a problem. Florigato is cool with having Prankster, but it's still just a bad NFE. Gloom is a bad NFE. Go-Go is just Y. No, it's not. It's a niche Pokemon. Go-Gold has access to Milk Drink, it has access to Hornly, it's got really good stats. It has a nice bulk up set that you can run with it. I just feel like it's so outclassed by a lot of different things that it makes sense to go into the Y category, but it is a niche Pokemon. Next up is going to be Gourgeist. I like Gourgeist a lot. I will put it into the solid category. I think it's actually a lot better than people lead on. It's got decent typing, has access to a lot of really good coverage options, has a really good attack or speed stat depending on which set you're running, and then of course having access to like Leech Seed and Foul Play, Shadow Sneak. All these things have a lot of good options. Switcheroo or Trick and Will-O-Wisp as well are also really good. So I will put Gourgeist up here in the solid category. Ivysaur is bad NFE. Jumpluff is just why. I'm pretty sure Jumpluff doesn't get Tailwind. I might be wrong on that. Jumpluff, and it does get Tailwind, and it's got decent speed, so it could be, you know, because of that I will put it over here in the niche category because it does get Tailwind, and I know in doubles that's at a premium, so I will put it over here. Leafeon into the niche category. It's not a great Pokemon overall, but in Sun it could do a lot of work. It's got a really interesting stat distribution. Like, it's got one of the more interesting stat distributions out there. I believe it's got like what? Yeah, 130 defense in this thing with 65 HP and 65 special defense. It's kind of awful. I kind of wish that its 95 speed was actually its special defense stat, and the special defense at 65 was its speed. I prefer that, even though it has chlorophyll. It just feels like it's not good enough in a lot of areas, and that's a bit of a problem for it. Next up, Leavanny. Leavanny goes right into niche because it has access to webs, at least. That is the main reason why. Lilligant, I'm going to put into solid because if you're not prepared to deal with Torkoal and Lilligant in Sun, then that could be problematic for you. This Pokemon is really strong, it's really hard, especially with like Own Tempo and Petal Dance, so keep that in mind. It's got a lot of really awesome options for you, so just look into Lilligant in competitive Pokemon, especially in doubles. And singles, it could be really good with like Sleep Powder plus Quiver Dance as well. Next up is Ludicolo. Ludicolo will also go into the solid tier. I know it has a lot of utility to beat down opposing rain teams, which is really cool. It has a good place on rain as well to help deal with opposing water types. It also in singles has utility. This Pokemon also gets Fake Out, by the way, which is nice. But in singles, it has a lot of utility as a really interesting typing. Being a decently bulky water that can hit hard offensively, has good coverage with the Ice Beam as well. Allows you to do a good bit of things with Ludicolo. Next up is going to be Maractus. I'll put Maractus into Y because the main advantage to this thing is it gets Storm Drain and it gets Spikes as well, and that's where a lot of these Pokemon have gone into the Y category. Meganium is going to be niche. There's really no reason to run Meganium over basically any other pure grass. It's like a bulky grass that doesn't do the job well enough, and that's kind of the problem with it. It's been Power Crept is a big deal. Next up is going to be Meowscarada. I will put Meowscarada into the best of the best. This is one of the better grass types out there. Having access to a really good coverage option, having access to protein is amazing. With Flower Trick, you can bypass basically any boost, which is obviously very powerful. You get access to Sucker Punch, you get access to Thunder Punch, you get access to Knockoff. There's a lot of good things that this Pokemon can do. It's got great speed, and it will do really well in singles and in doubles. And honestly, now it's doing a bit better in doubles than it is in singles. Next up, we're going to see Oddish into LC, Pumpkaboo into, I'll put it into Bat NFEs because it's actually banned from Little Cup because it's a really scary Pokemon. I believe it was banned from Little Cup at one point in time. Either way, I'll put into Bat NFEs because I know it can do a lot of good things in Little Cup. Next is going to be Rillaboom. Rillaboom will go into the really good category because it was nerfed quite a bit. I don't think it's actually released in the game yet, but it still got nerfed quite a bit. We saw in different data mines, so I don't want to put it into that tier. It's just way too good in previous generations and not good enough now. I'm gonna like bump Mega Bomb Snow down a lot lower. I think it's fine, but Rillaboom is better. These Pokemon are better, but yeah, Rillaboom did lose a lot of good things, unfortunately. Next up is going to be Roselia, which I'll put into the niche category. Niche, and then Roserade I'll put into the solid category. I think that Roselia, it offering spikes is nice, has a good special attacking stat, having a decent bulk is awesome, got good coverage, is really nice. Roserade just does it all better, except for the bulk part, which is obviously not the main factor for it, and has good speed at basically 90 or something. Next is going to be Rotom-Mow, which will go into the solid category. Like here's the thing. Right now we have 7 Pokemon. One of them's a Mega that's not even released in the game. Won't ever come back to a standard competitive league, competitive Smogon, competitive anything other than national decks. And we only have 7 Pokemon in the top 2 tiers. Grass is just a bad typing. It's a really bad typing, one of the worst out there. It has a good amount of success in today's metagame because of not Dynamaxing, because of terrestrializing, especially with like Pokemon, and like having to take on Pokemon like Dondozo and whatever, Garganacl. But in general, as a typing itself, as a pure typing, it's really not good as a whole. So if there's ever a restriction to terrestrializing, then keep in mind I don't think that'll work out very well for a lot of people because grasses are not that good. Either way, Rotomo is decently fast, has a good typing, has access to levitate, which is cool. It's a great ability, has access to decent coverage. The issue I have with it is that its best grass move, its only real grass move, is Leaf Storm, which has a chance to miss and also lowers your special attack, which is definitely problematic. I really don't like that in competitive Pokemon at all. Rowlet is Little Cup. Sawsbuck will go into the niche category. It just does a few things sometimes, and that's basically it. It's not very strong, it's not very fast, it doesn't offer too much for a team, but it's definitely better than the Y category. It's definitely better than the Y category though. Mega Sceptile, I'll put into really good. I like Mega Sceptile a lot. This is one of the, like, we're looking at dragon and grass Pokemon, something like the Flapple and the Appleton. They're slower, they're less offensive, or they rely on missing or potential missing their moves. The Pokemon like Mega Sceptile having Lightning Rod and doubles is obviously really strong, having a lot of good physical and special coverage. It can just do a lot, and I'll put it over here because of that reason. Regular Sceptile I'll put into the solid category though. Unburdened is cool, coverage is nice, that's the main thing. It's not good enough to be in the really good tier. Next up is going to be Scovillain. I'll put into solid as well because its typing is awesome. It's a really unique typing. It's the first fire and grass type out there, which is awesome. Having chlorophyll is, again, solid overall. It's got just below average coverage is the problem, especially on the physical side, I believe. The special side, it's got like earth power and stuff, which is nice, but Scovillain is missing like options. I wish it kind of got like, where's the Scovillain? I wish it got like close combat. It doesn't, unfortunately. I wish it got like better fighting type moves in general. It has none. On the physical side, it gets like crunch and everything, gets your fire and grass moves and stuff like that, and like stomping tantrum. That's just not good enough, I find. Special is, I believe, is it just earth power that it gets? It doesn't get earth power. Yeah, no, so I got mixed up. It's the physical side is much better than the special side. Either way, it's missing something. If its coverage was better, it would be so much better. It's got good attack. 108 and 108 special attack as well are both really solid. Speed of 75 is fine in chlorophyll. I just wish it had more. That's the problem with it. Next up is Superior. So Superior, in previous formats, people would look and say this thing is really good, but no, I think it's actually going to be in the solid category. It's got good speed. The issue is you're never going to have the coverage that you want. If you run Hidden Power Fire, you don't have Hidden Power Ice. If you're running Hidden Power Ice or Hidden Power, let's say, Fighting or whatever it's going to be, you don't have Hidden Power Fire. You need to make sure you have these coverage options, and it's a bit of a problem because of that reason. So I feel like having Superior in the solid category is where you should go with it. There's also a rumor that Contrary only worked one time. I think that was debunked. Either way, it's not a good Pokemon at all compared to Pokemon that are in these top few categories here. Next up is going to be Shaman Sky. Shaman Sky I'll put into the best of the best because it was a Pokemon that saw a lot of play in Ubers. I don't think it's as good as it once was because of power creep, mostly the fact that so many Pokemon get access to hazards, which is scary. This Pokemon can be dealt with by a lot of things, and Seed Flare, while it's a good move, can miss. It's also not the strongest move out there. On the immediate turn, it's better the second time around, and Grass offensively is just not great. Relies a lot on hacks too, so that's part of it, but I feel like it's fallen off. It is still a really good Pokemon though, one of the better Pokemon out there, one of the best grass types of all time, just not great. I believe also Seed Flare, was Seed Flare cut? I think it was actually. Either way, Shaman is up next. Shaman regular is going to be in the solid tier. It's bulky. I don't think I could put anything that has like 100 base attack, defense, all that in a niche category. It's just, it does enough that it can get the job done. It does get good coverage like Dazzling Gleam and Earth Power and everything and Air Slash and whatever. I just feel like there's more that could be done with it, and that's why I would rather put it into solid tier rather than really good. Next up though, we're going to see Shift Tree, which will go into the niche categories as a decent Sunsweeper, and that's basically it. Shiinotic, I'm gonna put in niche for now. I believe Shiinotic gets access to Rage Powder, right? Or Rage, it does not get Rage Powder. It does get Spore though, which has usefulness, and it gets access to Drain Kiss, which is cool. Its abilities are kind of bad, which is one of the main issues with it. But it does have access to like Strength Sap, and that's a big deal. I will put it in niche because of that. I'll put it towards like the end-ish of niche, but yeah, it's just not a good Pokemon, but it does get the job done enough compared to that, so I can't put it into Y, that's why. Smollett is LC, Snivy LC, Sprigatito is LC, Sunflora will go into Y. Just, this Pokemon should have been Scovillain 20 years ago. 20 years ago, this should have been Scovillain, but hey, what are you gonna do? Next is going to be Tangela. This will go into the niche category. Tangela as a bulky Pokemon with like knockoff and regen and leech seed and decent coverage options, it gets the job done, which is kind of cool, so I'll put it into niche. Tangrowth though will go into the really good tier. Tangrowth in VGC is not as good as it is in singles, but there's a lot of usefulness to have Tangrowth in singles. It just offers a lot of good things. The fact that it's so incredibly bulky, especially on the physical side, with an Assault Vest is crazy on the special side. Regenerate is the best ability in singles, so I do find that makes a lot of sense to put it over here in this tier. Definitely where I put it in a lot of situations. Next up is going to be Tapu Bulu. Really good. Yeah, really good. Reason being is terrain is obviously huge. The fact that you can switch up your terrain is really nice. You get access to Horn Leech, which is great, and Wood Hammer, so you're hitting really, really hard. You can be defensive. Your typing is fine overall. Yeah, you have a big weakness to poison, but most teams have a steel type or a way to deal with poison type Pokemon. So I feel like it makes a lot of sense to put a Pokemon like Tapu Bulu over here in the really good category. Then we have Thwackey, which I'll put into the niche category. It's good to get up terrain. It was still nerfed quite heavily. I'll put it actually into Y because of that, but it's still, I do see it run sometimes. Just because I see it run sometimes, I have to put it into niche. I have to. Next is going to be Toedscruel. Yeah, LC. Okay. Toedscruel was LC. Toedscruel is going to be niche. It gets Spore. Mycelium Might is such a bad ability. Its typing at grass and ground is like not great, and I just feel like it's missing a lot. Like if I look at Toedscruel's stat distribution, it looks good. But the Mycelium Might is such a bad ability. If I had a way to take advantage of its speed at base 100, it's fine. It's got decent coverage like Knockoff and D-Gleam. Earth Power is obviously nice. Flash Cannon is cool. Has access to Sludge Bomb as well. Spore, obviously. But it's missing something. And I feel like if it wasn't kind of locked behind its ability, it would be a lot better. Next up is going to be Torterra, which will go into the niche category. It's just a good offensive breaker, but that's really it. I don't see it really run in any situation outside of very low tiers in Smogon, and that's basically it. Trevenant had some utility in Smogon and VGC a while back. I will put it into niche because of that. Do I think it's going to be that good this generation? No, but because of that, you're going to see that it is here in the niche category. Next up, we're going to have Tropius, which will also... Tropius I'm going to put into Y. I'd rather have basically every Pokemon above Tropius that's in the tier above over it, and that makes sense. I'll put it over here into Y because I just don't see any reason to pick up Tropius. Ice just destroys this typing here. It doesn't have enough going for it. Stats are really bad. It just misses out quite a bit. Next we want to be Serena. Serena will go into the really good tier here. No, actually we lost a lot of coverage. It'll go into solid. If it kept its coverage, I think it would have been that tier for sure, but losing that coverage really hurts. Queenly Majesty is a great ability to have in VGC because you are able to basically make your opponent not be able to use Fake Out or make your team immune to it, rather. It has access to Rapid Spin in singles, which is amazing. Having U-Turn is great. Has decent coverage, but it misses some, unfortunately. I just feel like Serena has a lot of utility, but it's not as good as it was in previous generations. Mega Venusaur would be going into best of the best for sure. I love Mega Venusaur so much. In so many different formats, it would thrive. And yeah, because I will put over here into the best of the best. Venusaur, regular Venusaur, I will put over here into the... I'll put into really good because partly nostalgia, I love Venusaur, but second because in Sun it's really strong, but it also has a lot of utility as a good bulky defensive Pokemon, which is nice. It doesn't do the job as well as something like Tangrowth does. It's not as offensive as Tapu Bulu or Rillaboom or even Brute Bonnet, but it definitely gets the job done quite a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if I saw people use it if it ever comes back to the game as a big force in competitive Pokemon. Next up is Victory Bell. This just does Venusaur's job worse, so I'll put it into solid, but it does have some play. Vileplume has access to like Strength Sap and stuff, but it is definitely a niche Pokemon. Absolutely doesn't see enough play overall. Virizion is so listen, I used to think Virizion was like absolute trash. I used it once and I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm gonna put Virizion to solid because of that. I just think that I would rather have Virizion over every single Pokemon below it, and that's kind of my reasoning for this case right now. Next up is going to be Hisuian Voltorb over here. Weepinbell will go over here. Whimsicott, I'll put into the really good category. It's not as good in singles as it is in doubles, but it does offer quite a bit with its great typing, its access to Prankster and Tailwind and all that stuff. It does have a lot of utility because of that reason. Next is going to be Wo-Shen, which I'll put into the really good category as well. Power Creep is a main thing. Tablets of Ruin is a really good ability as well. There's just a lot of utility that it has. Knockoff is really rare to find in competitive Pokemon nowadays without the introduction to home Pokemon. So I do feel like Wo-Shen does make a lot of sense to go over here, and it is crazy bulky. Wormadam into the Y category, and Zarude, I will put Zarude into the really good category as well. So listen, Zarude offers good typing, fine. It offers good speed as well. I think it's a better Wo-Shen in a lot of areas. The issue is in the current formats that we're in, the fact that Wo-Shen doesn't really get any recovery, it's a big deal. Its best recovery is Leech Seed, and that's obviously not consistent enough. But because specifically Zarude does not get knockoff, I will not put it above Wo-Shen. that's basically it. So guys, that is going to be my tier list for this video. Honestly, I feel like I can take these two Pokemon here, the Shaman and the Venusaur, and shove them into the really good tier, but I do feel like this tier list makes a lot of sense. So guys, let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. I do feel like there's obviously a lot of room for improvement. If you guys have suggestions, let me know down the comments below as well. I want to give a big thank you as well to all of our YouTube channel members. Their support is greatly appreciated. So I'm gonna pull up the list of them over here. 1 second. There we go. So shout out to our level 1s, which are Liv, Eric, Zeke, and Tex. Our level 2 is Tone, and our level 3s are going to be Sully and Tiger VGC. So thank you guys all for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe to all that great stuff, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.